Hey everyone, welcome to the Tech Grinder podcast, where we are breaking new ground and pushing past the status quo when it comes to the startup ecosystem. But before we get started, the podcast has been created for entertainment and educational purposes only, and nothing in the content should be taken as investment advice. To see the full disclaimer, go to www.techgrinder.com. That's www.techgrinder.com. So let's get started, and we hope you enjoy this episode. Okay, so let's get into it. The world of technology is fascinating and constantly moving fast. That is for sure. In the midst of a strange tech downturn, generative AI is on the move. And overall AI is progressing as well. Also, there is so much software out there, it is insane. But as humanity interacts with all this technology, it is easy to see that people can get overwhelmed. And the reality is, it's only going to get more intense. If you pay attention to what is happening in the world of human resources, with everything going on in the job market, HR departments have become overwhelmed because technology has made it so easy to upload information to human capital software. And if HR departments are receiving an overwhelming amount of data, will that affect their ability to make the best decisions for all parties involved? If you look at software in general, you could spend days, months, and even years looking at software and the companies who build it, only to wake up the next morning to find more software companies you have never heard of. It is mind-boggling, and again, the word overwhelming is appropriate. As generative AI continues to evolve, humans are going to have access to a lot of information in the form of text and images. But will having all this information at our fingertips enable people to use that information for economic gain? Will generative AI also be used to create companies and jobs? It is very common knowledge in our world that income inequality continues to grow. So with income inequality growing, it only seems logical to ask the question, can generative AI help move the needle in a positive direction when it comes to income inequality? As we move forward in the 21st century, income inequality is definitely one of the biggest problems facing humanity, and the problem of income inequality in itself feels somewhat overwhelming. With so much software available at our fingertips, there's another problem facing the workforce, and that is the skills gap. With so much software available, even if the software is similar to each other, how will entrepreneurs, freelancers, and job seekers keep up with it? The skills gap has also been called the learning gap, which in some ways spreads the responsibility around a bit, meaning with all the software there is, some of the responsibility should be in the hands of companies and not solely on individuals. Companies are definitely facing a dilemma going forward. And the dilemma is, will companies have to dig in and create learning programs so they can have the skilled workers they need? For the most part, developing skills has been left in the hands of the individual. But with so much software out there, this again is an overwhelming problem. Both the skills gap and income inequality are definitely tough problems facing humanity in the 21st century. But another problem that is really easy to see, that globally we need more entrepreneurs. We need a lot more entrepreneurs to create businesses and for those businesses to create jobs. But one of the biggest problems facing entrepreneurs is what we call the funding gap. The funding gap is a startup that is in the phase where they are trying to grow and maybe trying to raise capital, but may not fit into the venture capital model. To simplify this, we call this the small to medium-sized enterprise sector. which history has shown us is the true engine of job creation. If we don't try to address this very large gray area, the funding gap, it is possible that job creation could stall. And by looking at what is happening in the job market today, the last thing we need is a lack of job creation. As we all try to make our way in the world, whether we are an entrepreneur, freelancer, or job seeker, we are out there grinding every day, putting ourselves and our information out there. But if we step back and again look at what we said earlier about HR departments being overwhelmed, if these departments become overwhelmed, the likelihood of them using more automation and AI going forward is extremely likely. This could become extremely overwhelming to job seekers if they are for the most part playing a game with a machine. Look, we are already here. This is already happening today. But we are concerned that what is happening today could become the norm in the future and be much more intense. We know that it is easy for people who are not in the thick of this today to put their blinders on and say, "This is not my problem." But the reality of that is what might not be someone's problem today might be their problem down the road. It might not happen today or 6 months from now, but you never know what could transpire a year or two from now. Here at the Tech Grinder podcast, we decipher the grind, which could encompass the future of work, startups, entrepreneurism, freelancers, and the creator economy. We are definitely concerned about the grind in general and the fact that in some ways it is overwhelming already today and could become even more intense in the future. We hope you enjoyed this episode titled Technology, Software, AI, and the Feeling of Being Overwhelmed. Until next time, thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Tech Grinder podcast. If you'd like to continue the conversation, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Thanks so much for listening. Until next time.